After being reborn as the male protagonist's troublesome cannon fodder girlfriend, I followed the plot professionally. She bullies the male protagonist in bed every day and squanders his money lavishly under the bed. The mission will be over as long as the male protagonist completely gets tired of me. But no matter what I did, the hero always smiled gently and tenderly, and let me sleep with him and fish for him without caring at all. Just when I was at a loss for words, the offline system suddenly screamed, "Host, you slept with the wrong person. This is David, the most insane villain in this book." Me, no wonder he's so calm. Compared to him, my little bit of badness is as minor as a kitten's scratch. I was so scared that I turned around and tried to run, but when I turned around I ran into David. He threw me back on the bed and unbuttoned my shirt slowly. "You've bullied me so many times, you should let me bully you back once, right? Don't be afraid, baby, it's just for one night." As soon as I opened my eyes, I was surrounded by deep darkness. The suppressed breathing of a stranger came to my ears. After adjusting to the light, I looked towards the source of the sound. I saw a tall man with broad shoulders and long legs sitting on the sofa. His body was trembling slightly, and the corners of his eyes were bright pink. The originally well-fitting black uniform had several buttons undone, revealing a chest covered in a little sweat. I was shocked. Was this person drugged? What is going on? I poked him cautiously, "Hey." But before I could say the next word, I felt dizzy. The next moment, I was pressed down on the bed. The scorching hot breath hit me in the face, and the oppressive feeling was so heavy that it made my scalp numb. A low, hoarse male voice sounded in my ears, "Who are you?" I was stunned. In fact, I am a book traveler, and I have become a vicious female supporting character named Linda. In the original novel, Linda is the girlfriend of the male protagonist David, who pretends to be gentle and innocent. But once the hero went bankrupt, her money-loving and lustful nature was exposed. During the day, she squandered the protagonist's remaining savings, and at night she imprisoned him in bed and bullied him every night. After a while, Linda felt bored and threw the male protagonist into the black market to fend for himself. But the hero survived. From then on, he turned completely evil. Not only did he build up his own power, he also took revenge on Linda 1,000 times. Finally, when she was dying, the male protagonist felt bored and shot her to death. My mission is to complete this storyline. Sleep with the male protagonist as much as possible, try your best to get him, and then die wisely. So, the person in front of me is the male protagonist David? Click. As I was thinking about it, I suddenly felt a hard touch on my waist. I suddenly came to my senses. I glanced out of the corner of my eye and saw a gun against my waist. Damn it. Where did you get the gun, male protagonist? This part is not mentioned in the original book. I was scared out of my wits. The other party's voice sounded calmly again, "Extremely dangerous, who are you?" Feeling the murderous intent from the other side, I shuddered all over, and immediately followed the setting in the original book, crying and hugging him without delay. "Who else can I be? Of course I am your partner, husband. You called me baby yesterday, why are you so cold today? I'm going to break, woo-woo." By the end, his voice was already tearful. Although he was actually frightened, he sounded as if he was hurt by love and was particularly pitiful. There was a chuckle from the other side. The next moment, his handsome face suddenly magnified several times. He has cold eyebrows, a high nose bridge, and his deep and clear eyes reflect my face. My heart stopped instantly. It turned out to be the male protagonist David. Apart from him, there is no one else in the book who looks so handsome. "Baby," David stared at me, his tone suddenly becoming soft and coaxing, "since you are my partner, do you know what you should do when I am drugged?" The hot breath brushed past my ears, and an intense numbing sensation spread from my ears to every part of my body. The heartbeat suddenly became louder. What's the meaning? Is it time to follow the original story and sleep with him? But why do I always feel something is wrong? In the original book, David clearly hated Linda's touch and avoided her as much as possible. Why is David still rushing to ask me to touch him now? Seeing me staring at him blankly, David sneered and stood up to leave. "You can't even pretend, you're so stupid." Me, damn it, how dare you mock me? I sat up angrily, grabbed the other person's sleeve, then held his face and kissed him hard. Just go to sleep. Anyway, David has such a great figure, so I won't suffer any loss. In order to complete the task, try your best. David's pupils shrank and he raised his hand as if to push me away, but the effect of the drug came back at this moment. He couldn't hold it back any longer, and with a light breath he wrapped his arms around my waist, deepening the kiss. In the blazing heat, I was so exhausted that I had no energy left but to cry. For the first time I understood what it meant to ask for trouble. David, this bastard, has abnormal physical strength. In a daze, I suddenly remembered the description of Linda in the original novel. The eldest daughter of the Linda family is a beast in human form. She humiliates David every night and refuses to let him go. When I first read this passage, I was only deeply angry at the behavior of the female supporting character. But now it has all turned into admiration. Humiliation every night? Sister, you are in really good physical condition. When I opened my eyes again, I felt an indescribable pain all over my body. While rubbing his waist, he looked around. The pure black marble floor, the gorgeous chandeliers hung with diamonds, and the exquisite decorations everywhere, almost every corner is filled with a luxurious and expensive atmosphere. I was stunned. When I looked down again, I saw that the bed was a luxurious king-size bed, more than 3 times bigger than the bed I had in my original world. Tears of happiness suddenly fell. I knew Linda was a rich girl, but I never thought she could be so rich. After being poor for so long, it's finally my turn to enjoy myself. Just as I was sighing with tears in my eyes, a bowl of porridge suddenly appeared in my sight. At the same time, David's familiar voice came over. Why are you crying? Don't you like staying at my house? Me, is this your home? Otherwise, it could be your home? I rubbed my eyes. After a while, he rubbed it again in disbelief. No. I shed tears of blood in my heart. Isn't your family bankrupt? Why do you still have such a luxurious villa? Is this what it means that a lean camel is bigger than a horse? David standing by saw me crying, wondering what he had misunderstood. He rubbed the corners of my eyes with his warm fingertips for a few times, and comforted me somewhat uncomfortably. Don't cry, I couldn't control myself last night. Have some porridge. There are painkillers in it, it should make you feel better. Me, thinking of some ambiguous scenes last night, the tears in the corners of my eyes were evaporated directly by the temperature of my cheeks. Oh, after saying a word, he took the bowl and drank the porridge silently. Sure enough, my stomach felt much better. David looked at me and continued, I will take responsibility for what happened last night. You can stay here with me from now on. Ah? A mouthful of porridge almost choked in my throat and my eyes widened in horror. This development is not right. According to the original plot, shouldn't I be the one supporting the bankrupt David now? How come it's the other way around? Seeing that I didn't answer, David raised his eyebrows and said, What's wrong, baby? Didn't you say last night that you would sleep me out psychologically sooner or later? Are you breaking your promise now? Me, how come he still remembers this sentence? This is the nonsense I said last night when David asked me, Are you no longer capable? And my desire to win was aroused. But in fact, it is also my mission. But, if I really do this, will I be able to live until the day the mission is completed? He won't die of exhaustion first, will he? I instantly felt guilty and made up something under my breath. Forget it. Actually, I am more particular about my bed. This bed in your house is so strange, I won't be able to sleep if I lie on it. David smiled and said, It's okay, baby. If you don't like this bed, I'll have the bed from last night brought here. That bed should be familiar to you, right? Me, in the original novel, shouldn't the supporting female character bully the hero to the point where he's speechless? Why am I speechless when it's my turn? Who is bullying whom? A few days passed in a flash. I don't know why my system went offline as soon as I entered this world, and I couldn't get in touch with it no matter what. I had no choice but to give up this unreliable system and continue to complete the book crossing mission myself. There are 3 tasks in total: sleep with the male protagonist, rescue the male protagonist, and die. For some reason, the first mission went exceptionally smoothly. David didn't threaten to die when I touched him like in the original book. Instead, he always smiled happily. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but curse inwardly, this guy is such a pervert. After cursing, I stood up and walked towards David's office. Let's go for the second task, making money. I held a bank card in my hand and pushed open the door angrily. David, I have no money. Before I finished speaking, cold sweat fell on my face. A group of well-trained bodyguards stood in the spacious office. The moment I pushed the door open, they all turned around and stared at me warily. Then, they all picked up dozens of guns and pointed them at me. Me. Although my ultimate mission is to be killed by the male protagonist. But I can still tell the difference between one gun and dozens of guns. My legs went limp, and I squatted down and held my head in my hands. Brothers, don't kill me. I'm just passing by, leave now, leave now. Suddenly, a very light laugh was heard. David lazily held his chin with one hand, tilted his head, and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Don't be afraid, baby. Come here, what did you want to say? After these words were spoken, the people around him put down their guns. But my scalp still tingles. How can I even say this? I walked over reluctantly, my arrogant attitude weakened a lot, and I spoke softly like a spoiled child. Honey, I have no money in my card. Can you give me some pocket money? David took the bank card, took a look at it, and suddenly frowned. My eyes lit up. Is the plot of Honkai Impact 3 finally going to follow the original novel? In the original book, after David went bankrupt, Linda secretly squandered his remaining property. This caused his seriously ill mother to lose medical expenses and eventually die in pain. This was David's lifelong pain and also the catalyst for his dark transformation. From then on, he hated those gold diggers who loved money like their lives. I looked at David's frowning brows and felt a little excited. Is he starting to hate me? The plot is finally running smoothly, and I have hope of completing the mission. But the next moment, David threw the card aside and then, in front of my excited eyes, he took out another black and gold card. It's obviously much more advanced than mine. David looked at my stunned expression and spoke in a calm tone as if he was talking about supermarket specials. How can I use this bank card? What can I buy with a spending limit of only 100,000? Use my black card. Me, what do you mean only 100,000? That's a full 100,000. If you are bankrupt, then what am I? Beggar? Sometimes I really laugh at myself. After a few more days of living a life of debauchery, I suddenly woke up from my dream. Wrong. We can't continue to degenerate like this. My mission is clearly to complete the original storyline. But now the plot has become so messed up that even the mother can't recognize it. In the original book, David hated Linda to the core after she slept with him once and took advantage of him. Why is it that even though I sleep and fish every day, David still smiles all the time? Just when I was angry, David's handsome face suddenly came over and kissed me on the cheek. Why are you angry, baby? Did someone make you unhappy? I just bought you a room full of limited edition new bags that you didn't buy at the last auction. Do you want to go take a look together? I immediately smiled and said, okay. All right. These days, it seems like I can still live. Aowa. At night, when I was sleeping alone, I was awakened by a sharp and piercing explosion. I rubbed my eyes in confusion. Who is it? What are you arguing about? The familiar electronic voice collapsed. It's me, host, I am the system. Oh? Hearing this, I finally got excited and stood up and asked excitedly, you're finally back. I can't see the progress without you. Come and help me check the progress of the task? The system was strangely silent. After a long while, it whispered, there is good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear? I was stunned. But I always like to have sweet things first and bitter things later, then let's have the good news first. System, the good news is that David's favorability towards you is 100%. The capture is successful. This guy David actually likes me. Am I that attractive? I was immediately overjoyed and felt very happy. What about the bad news? The bad news is the system burst into tears. What's the point of you conquering him? Your mission is to find the male lead to follow the plot, but you haven't even seen the shadow of the male lead yet. You actually asked me about the progress of the mission. Me? My CPU was smoking for a moment. What do you mean, isn't David the male lead? Not only is he not the male protagonist, he is not even an ordinary person. This is the most crazy villain in the whole article. A villain who has committed many evil deeds and used cruel means. How could these words be related to David who was so good to me? I took a few deep breaths and rubbed my aching head. That's not right. I remember before I traveled into the book, you clearly told me that the hero's name was David. No, the system said righteously, don't accuse me. I clearly said that the hero is called Gavin and the villain is called David. Did you hear it wrong? Me? No, buddy, isn't this the same pronunciation? It would be hell if you don't admit your mistake. Too lazy to argue with this unreliable system, I asked the most important question at the moment. So what should I do now? System, what else can we do? Run. Its tone shrank. Do you know what the biggest villain is? It is far more cruel and ruthless than you think. If you fall into the hands of the hero, it will only take one bullet. If I fall into the hands of the villain, I don't know how I will die. Run for your life now. My head hurt from the system's yelling, and I subconsciously listened to it, got up from the bed, turned around and wanted to run. But as soon as I raised my head, the blood in my body froze. David stood quietly at the door of the dim room, listening for an unknown amount of time. He clearly had no expression on his face, but hiding in the shadows, he looked inexplicably gloomy and frightening. Baby, who are you talking to? Where do you want to escape to? This is no different from seeing a ghost in broad daylight. I broke out in a cold sweat instantly. I couldn't see David's expression clearly, and I didn't know how much he heard. I can only take a gamble now. Thinking of this, I reacted at the fastest speed in my life, and immediately rushed over with a smile on my face. Honey, why are you here? I was talking to a friend on the phone. She played an escape room today and kept talking to me about how to get out. It sounded like fun. I want to go with her next time, is that possible? As I spoke, I shook his arm, trying to distract him. As I looked at him expectantly, David's lips slowly curled up into a smile. Really? Of course you can go and play, but there is one small condition. The bet won. He actually believed it. I breathed a sigh of relief, then smiled and asked, what are the conditions? David opened his lips slightly and said slowly, since you like to escape, why don't you play an escape room game with me at home first? If you can escape from my house within half an hour, I will let you go. Certainly, his deep eyes were filled with emotions I couldn't understand. If you can't escape this time, you will stay with me forever in the future. The surprise came too suddenly. As soon as I finished speaking, I jumped up and hooked my pinky finger with David, fearing that he would regret it the next second. Okay. It's a deal, don't regret it. After saying that, he turned and ran. It's really not my fault that I'm confident. But no matter how big David's house is, it's just a house. How difficult is it to escape? In half an hour, I managed to crawl out. Half an hour later, I looked at the endless garden and finally collapsed in despair. There was only one thought left in my mind. David is indeed the ultimate villain, he won't let anyone go easily. I always thought that his family only had one villa. So from the moment I stepped out of the house, I seemed to see freedom beckoning me. So, I walked through the giant European fountain, the white marble square, the artificial river, the zoo, and finally saw his garden. What a great boat! It has passed through thousands of mountains, and the Wooming Mountains are connected to mountains beyond mountains. My eyes went dark. When he fell to the ground exhausted, he did not forget to punch the sky angrily. Damn rich man, can't you give me a piece of this vast land? Suddenly, a cold night breeze blew, and a rustling sound was heard all around, and all kinds of strange plants moved with the wind. There were even birds that let out mournful screams. I silently retracted my fist. I was so shocked that I broke out in a cold sweat. My adrenaline was rushing just now, but now that I've calmed down I realize that there's no one around me. It's such a big garden, but I'm the only one here at the moment. The atmosphere is really scary. I walked back cautiously, not daring to look back, for fear that something unclean was chasing me. But just at this moment, the tip of his shoe was tripped by the bushes. My attention was completely focused on what was behind me, and I was caught off guard and fell heavily forward. Oh no! I closed my eyes tightly, waiting for the pain to come. But at this moment, a force suddenly grabbed my collar and pulled it gently. I fell into someone's arms. This sudden change scared me so much that I struggled desperately. "All what? Don't get hung up on me." A light laugh was heard. The person on the other side easily restrained me while I was struggling and put a warm coat on me to block out the cold night air. The familiar scent of cedar perfume came. I stopped moving instantly. I opened my eyes and looked up, just in time to meet David's smiling eyes. "You lose." I don't know why, but the moment I saw David, my tense heart subconsciously relaxed. Although the escape attempt had failed, at this moment I felt an inappropriate sense of relief. I muttered and said, "Can you regret the game just now? I didn't expect your house is so big." "It's not fair." David smiled. "Can't regret it. You swore an oath to me, have you forgotten?" Under the moon, his extremely beautiful face was so dazzling that it was almost more alluring than the moonlight. My brain froze for a moment. After a while, he turned his head with red ears. Yeah, I forgot. David stared at me and suddenly laughed a few times. Your memory is really bad, let me help you remember it better. He took my hand, clasped my fingers together, and lowered his head to give the back of my hand a solemn kiss. Stay with me. The power of the sweet words said by this extremely handsome guy to me is so great. I washed my face with cold water 3 times before the fever finally subsided. After calming down, I suddenly realized the consequences. It's over system. What if I miss this opportunity and I can't escape anymore? The system hesitated for a moment and said, how about we change our thinking? Don't run away, but let David himself couldn't stand you and drove you away. I was stunned. Can this really be done? The system patted its chest confidently. Don't worry, I've traveled a lot and met so many men, I understand men much better than you do. Men hate women who are always clingy and controlling. You just need to make full use of your ability as a troublemaker and keep making trouble for no reason. I guarantee you will be thrown out in a few days. It sounds like it makes sense. So I nodded heavily. Good idea. The next evening, David came back 5 minutes late. As he walked inside, he untied his tie with one hand, exuding a faint sense of laziness and fatigue. Good opportunity. The system said that if you commit suicide when a man is tired, you can achieve twice the result with half the effort. So I immediately ran and threw myself into his arms. He raised his head and burst into tears. David stiffened, then used his fingers to delicately wipe my tears. What's wrong? I choked and grabbed his collar. Honey, do you have someone else outside? Through my tearful eyes, I saw David raise his eyebrows subtly. I don't care. You came back so late today, you must have gone out to find someone else and don't want me anymore. I squeezed back my tears and thought about the saddest things in my life. Try your best to act like a heartbroken love-brained person. But at this moment, something warm suddenly touched my face. I turned my head and looked in confusion. Then suddenly I couldn't cry anymore. David held up a bag of beautifully packaged pastries, his tone somewhat helpless. I don't believe you when I say you have a bad memory. Didn't you clamor for the new cakes a few days ago? His house was open today, so I was delayed for a while. I was stunned. Then I remembered that a new dessert shop opened a few days ago. I heard that the chef is one of the best in the world and has very high requirements for food quality. He only makes 5 servings a day. I just mentioned it casually at the time and never thought I would be able to buy it. But unexpectedly, David actually bought it back for me. I covered my chest. Try your best to suppress the inexplicably accelerated heartbeat. No, I must not fall for the beauty trap. As my sight turned, I suddenly caught a glimpse of a hint of red on David's collar, and finally found another opportunity. Wait, what's on your clothes? Fighting spirit rekindled. I stood on tiptoe excitedly and ripped open his collar. Why is there a lipstick mark on your collar? When David's clothes were stripped, the tips of his ears turned slightly red. Only when he heard what I said did he come back to his senses and glanced at his collar indifferently. Then he stretched out his bony fingers and gently pressed them on my lips. My words just froze in my throat. Just as I was about to ask him what he was going to do, I heard David's somewhat hoarse voice coming from my ear. This is your lipstick mark. I accidentally rubbed it with a good morning kiss today, and I didn't want to wipe it off. My face suddenly turned red. Although David is a crazy villain, as a boyfriend, he is a perfect person who can give his partner a sense of security. I simply can't find a single flaw in it. So, I had to stumble and try to make excuses for myself. Honey, don't think I'm annoying. I'm just very insecure. I want you to stay by my side all the time and only have me in your eyes, so I got a little emotional. Good. David interrupted me. He flipped his slender fingers and took out a pair of silver handcuffs from somewhere. The smile on his lips was as gentle as jade, but under the dim light, it looked particularly morbid and paranoid. In that case, lock us together and never separate us. Okay, baby? My expression froze instantly and I subconsciously took a step back. You must be kidding. How can any normal person carry handcuffs with him? But David's expression didn't seem like he was joking. He approached me slowly and steadily. The tone was soft, but every word touched my heart. You're so proactive tonight, can I take it as you miss me very much? I was about to explain, but the next moment, the other party had already pushed me against the wall and lowered his head to kiss me deeply. The hot breath can ignite at any time. David's unique smell, temperature, touch, invaded my world so forcefully. I had trouble breathing and was forced to look up. Then I heard a click and my wrists were locked by cold handcuffs. David whispered in my ear, "Don't worry, baby, we will never be separated." Fortunately, although David was very critical, he didn't really handcuff me for life when he heard me crying and saying it was just a joke. Just as punishment, he handcuffed me for the whole night. When I woke up the next day, my waist was so sore. I could only rub my waist while summarizing my failure painfully. I thought I had pretended to be very possessive, but I didn't expect that the other party's possessiveness was even stronger. What a trap it is. Now it seems that my plan to make David annoyed by me and drive me away is not going to work. After all, David's brain circuits are different from others. I pester him, but he doesn't feel annoyed. It will feel good instead. So I had no choice but to pull the system and change the strategy again. This time, the system pondered for a long time and finally came up with a method to target David. Host, I finally understand. A possessive person like David might just like to cling to others. Then you should do the opposite and act more fierce. I was stunned when I heard it. How to do it specifically? For example, you can insult him and trample on him with bloodshot eyes, telling him that you hate him and that no one likes to be with a pervert. A person like him who is so controlling definitely doesn't like people who dare to resist him. If I get angry and embarrassed, I will definitely kick you out. This does make sense. But I was still stunned. What does this bloodshot eyes operation mean? I stared at him for a long time, but my eyes didn't turn red. It seems that we have to find another way. So when David came back to the room at night, he saw my eyes, red and swollen like walnuts. It was obvious that she had cried. He immediately walked over quickly, lowered his head and looked into my eyes. What's wrong? I kept the system's instructions in mind and tried to glare at him, I hate you. But David didn't seem to care. He rubbed my eyes, which I had tried to open wide, and nodded. Yeah, but I like you. Because I like you and I'm worried about you, so can you tell me what happened? His tone was as gentle as water, and it easily dissolved my first round of attack. I paused for a moment. It took him a while to find his voice, and he stammered as he went to humiliate him. You're still embarrassed to ask? You are so perverted, who can stand to be with you? Very imposing. It's a pity that my voice was a little choked up because of crying so hard that my eyes turned red, so the power of my voice was greatly reduced. David stared at me, his Adam's apple rolling up and down, and then he said in a hoarse voice, "Okay, baby, I admit that it was wrong to handcuff you last night. Don't cry, I will be gentler next time. Or if you want to cuff me back, you can always do so. I'll let you take your revenge." Me. Sometimes I really doubt that David and I are not on the same wavelength. Otherwise, why does the topic always go in inexplicable directions? David rubbed my dull head. Then he stood up and said, "I'll go get someone to get some ice to put on your eyes." No. My pupils suddenly shrank. I mustered up the courage to come and humiliate David. If I were interrupted once, how would I have the face to continue? Thinking of this, I stood up and pressed David's shoulders hard. Then with a hard push, David was completely defenseless against me and fell onto the bed. His eyes widened slightly. You. The time is now. The next moment, I was stepping on his abdominal muscles with my high heels. The system screamed celebration in my head. That's right, well done, host. Trample and humiliate him. David seemed stunned. I took this opportunity to slide my high heels back and forth on him a few more times. To be honest, it's quite comfortable to step on his abdominal muscles, the lines are smooth and tight, it seems that he has a good figure. What's wrong? Didn't you just let me take revenge? How can you run away now? As I made this domineering statement, I spoke to the system with a guilty conscience. How is it? Is the humiliation strong enough this time? The system smiled confidently, guaranteed. Don't worry, host. I checked it out earlier. David's life experience revealed that he had been abused and humiliated since childhood, and I hate this the most. All those who bullied him are now gone without a trace. My smile froze immediately. This is an unreliable system. Brother, have you ever thought that I might disappear? I just want to be kicked out of the house, not to be kicked out to heaven. Thinking of this, I immediately wanted to retract my foot. But it didn't move. I looked towards David fearfully, only to see flames burning in his eyes, concealing a scorching heat. His voice was extremely dark. "Since you want revenge, why don't you be bolder?" As he said this, he grabbed my ankle with one hand and forced me all the way down. Even though I couldn't touch anything because of the high heels, I felt like my whole foot was burning. My scalp went numb instantly and I subconsciously wanted to break free again. But this time, he grabbed her legs and pushed her into the bed. The up and down positions were reversed in an instant. David looked down at me, his thin lips curled up. "You keep saying I'm a pervert, don't you like to play even more perverted than me? If you like anything else, you can tell me directly later. There's no need to go through so much trouble. We'll try them all tonight." After a week of all this, David wasn't even tired of it yet, but my body couldn't take it anymore. The system also crashed. This guy is in love, he's still not annoyed even though he's doing this. I'm almost annoyed. At this point, there is only one last resort left. I no longer had any interest in the system's bad ideas, but out of politeness, I still made a please speak gesture. Then I heard the system say, "Everyone loves money, so go spend all his money." Me, it is indeed a very bad idea. This is more difficult than the previous idea. Considering David's wealth, if all his money was converted into cash, it would probably take 3 days and 3 nights for the fire to burn all the money. But now, this is the only option left for me. Even though he can't spend all of it, it shouldn't be difficult to spend it enough to make him feel distressed, right? At the auction in City A, celebrities, dignitaries, and even people from both the black and white worlds gathered there. Along the way, both sides of the red carpet were filled with priceless exhibits. In the past, I wouldn't even dare to take a step into such an occasion. But now the situation has changed. I swiped my black card all the way through and bought almost all the exhibits, receiving countless astonished looks. The people next to me kept whispering. Judging from his lip shape, he seemed to be guessing when I would buy it. But I don't know myself. All I knew was that I had to keep buying until David couldn't stand it anymore. Ding-ling-ling. I don't know how long it was before the phone finally rang. The caller ID showed the name David. Could it be that? I suppressed my excitement and answered the call. "Hello, what do you want to talk to me about, husband? Have you just been spending?" I said twice. "Honey, are you worried about the money?" Unexpectedly, David seemed to be amused, and a hint of laughter could be heard in his voice. "What are you thinking about? I feel sorry for your hands. Aren't you tired of carrying so many things? You went out today without a few bodyguards, so I guess you can't carry it all. So I just sent a few more people, they will be here soon." I was stunned. His tone couldn't help but be tinged with doubt. "I bought so many things, isn't it too high profile?" During these days of getting along with him, I found that although David is a villain boss, he is usually not overly ostentatious to others and is generally low-key and introverted. But my style of doing things today is very different from his. "Do you really not mind?" However, David obviously didn't seem to care. His voice was still gentle and steady, and contained a reassuring power. "Won't. You can go ahead and make a big show, I'll pay for you." The system's last approach also failed. But strangely, I didn't feel that disappointed. On the contrary, this heart was beating faster than ever, as if some strange emotion was boiling inside. How strange. After visiting the exhibition, I walked towards the dressing room while rubbing my chest. Since the gentleman stopped, the bodyguards automatically stopped outside the door. I walked in alone. Then she picked a compartment, took off her gorgeous and complicated clothes, and changed into everyday clothes. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Expensive clothes are good, but they are too cumbersome. After a day of walking, I was almost exhausted. But before he could completely relax, a group of people dressed as noble ladies came in. Suddenly, a fierce voice came to my ear. That boastful woman just now turned out to be David's female companion. Oh? Someone is discussing me? I became curious and gently pressed my body against the door panel, trying to hear more clearly. "Shh, keep your voice down. You're making so much noise that people outside the door can hear you." My God, did anyone count how much that woman bought in one night? It's like I have endless money to spend, what a waste. That is to say, she followed David has not shown up in the circle since then, and when he did show up, he was so high profile, it felt like he was protesting against us. Maybe she just wanted men to look at her, so she dressed so gorgeously on purpose, causing my husband to stare at her all night. She must be so happy. It's a misfortune for David to be with such a woman. As I listened, I felt nothing at all and even felt like laughing. I didn't expect that these people who had never spoken to me would say this to me behind my back. But what I lack the least in my life is people talking bad about me behind my back. As long as it doesn't bother me, I won't pay any attention to them no matter what they say. So I opened the door, turned around and wanted to leave. But at this moment, an extremely sharp voice was heard. I think David is not a good person either. When I heard the word David, for some reason, I stopped in my tracks. The man continued to analyze indignantly, that woman is not a rich girl, how can she have any say? If you ask me, what she did tonight must have been ordered by that bastard David. When he was cooperating with our family before, he actually cancelled the cooperation with us just because we accidentally destroyed a village during construction. A bastard is a bastard. He exudes a lowly aura. At this point, I stopped completely. It turns out that I know so little about David. I knew nothing of the things she mentioned. But after spending so many days with David, I did get to know him a little better. He would bandage injured wild cats, seriously receive the director of the welfare home who came to express his gratitude, and would also show infinite pampering to me when I was asking for trouble. All these things made me feel that he was not as scary as the system said. It's not as bad as the person outside the door says. When they scolded me, I didn't care because I had been thick-skinned since I was a child. But when I started scolding David, I subconsciously felt confused, ridiculous, and angry for the first time in a long time. The people outside the door were all horrified and covered their mouths. Oh my aunt. David, you dare to say that, if someone hears you, you're done for. The woman curled her red lips and said, TSK, what are you afraid of? Could David send someone to eavesdrop on us in the women's locker room? Hi. Before she finished her words, I patted her shoulder. The woman stopped talking instantly. She slowly turned around and looked at me, her gorgeous makeup couldn't hide her face that suddenly turned pale. It was like seeing a ghost. I smiled and said gently, Sisters, what are you talking about? Can you take me with you too? Unexpectedly, this group of people were talking about me behind my back, but when they actually saw me in person, they were so scared that they stuttered. This is not David, that one. Oops. My sister is really something, how come there is no movement even after coming here? That's right, ha 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 ha, look, the sisters are talking about you, and you're here, what a coincidence. A group of noble ladies came up to me with forced smiles and held my hands in a pretentious manner. I let them hold me, and my tone remained gentle, it's okay, it's not a coincidence. I listened here for 10 minutes before I came out. I spent a lot of money today and bought a lot of things. I'm very tired. So I rested a little longer in the locker room, don't the sisters mind, right? Now, everyone's faces became colorful, which was very exciting. I'm sorry, sister. We are drunk and talking nonsense. Please don't take it seriously. I'll take my leave now. Then I'll leave first. See you next time. They ran very fast in their high heels, and in the blink of an eye, the place was empty. It seems like he never wants to say goodbye to me in this life. I slowly withdrew my smile. Then he tapped the system. System, you said before that you investigated David's background. Can you tell me about it? Of course you can, but... The system was a little confused. Why do you suddenly want to know this? I don't know either. When I first entered the book, I just wanted to complete the system task quickly. I didn't care about the specific task object, and I felt that it didn't matter who it was. That's why in the end, even the protagonist and the villain can be confused. But it's different now. I don't know why, but I really want to get to know David better at this moment. I want to know his joys and sorrows, his past experiences, and what kind of person he is. I want to know another side of him that I have never seen. David's father is a wealthy landowner of the Robert family. He was a womanizer and once forced himself on David's mother while drunk. He left without mercy the next day. Although my mother was devastated and hopeless, she was a strong woman at heart. She quickly adjusted herself and set up a stall to support David. In her free time, she would hold her child and gently say over and over again, "Baby, your name is David. David means ease and leisure. We will not look back to the past, and we just want to live peacefully in the future." She does what she says. In the days that followed, no matter how hard the life of the orphan and widow was, they never went to look for David's father once. David grew up in this kind of love. But when I was 12 years old, this love was destroyed in the most cruel way. Suddenly, his father came with a group of people and took David away by force. He looked at his mother who had fallen to the ground and sneered, "He is still the son of my Robert family. You want him to have a surname like yours? Dream on." It turned out that Mrs. Robert was infertile, and his father was worried for a long time. Finally, he remembered that he had an illegitimate child outside. So he immediately snatched David back and announced to the public that he was his wife's child. My father was happy, my wife was happy, and the entire Robert family was happy. But since then, my mother's life was ruined for the second time. She cried all day long and went to Robert's family mansion to make trouble countless times, but was dragged out mercilessly every time. I never saw David again. On the other hand, David was renamed as soon as he walked in. He silently endured the cold eyes of his biological father and stepmother, and the strict and almost harsh training of the wealthy family. Just so that one day I can escape and find my mother. On the day of his escape, he made all the necessary preparations and finally managed to slip out of the house as he wished. But David, who was still young, had no idea how big this complicated cage was. He got lost in the multi-story mansion, but was finally found by the servants and dragged back. After the incident, the entire Robert family was furious. The lady thought that David was an ungrateful bastard and that he should be bled to drain out the dirty blood of the illegitimate child. As a result, David began to be abused in various ways and was covered with scars every day. But he never gave up. Escape once, be caught once, and then strengthen supervision and punishment. After repeating this process for an unknown number of times, David finally managed to escape. He limped back home with an excited but nervous heart. But what greeted him were the broken and dusty furniture, and the neighbor's regretful sigh, "This woman is so pitiful." She was only in her early 30s, but she died of illness so early. From then on, David turned completely evil. When the system reached this point, I couldn't listen anymore and made a pause gesture. The system really stopped considerately. I closed my eyes, trying to ease the sour feeling in my chest. However, it couldn't be suppressed at all. In the chaos, my thoughts suddenly went back to the night when David and I played the escape room game. I ran around in the deep courtyard for a full half hour, and in the end, I collapsed from exhaustion before I even saw the exit. Little did I know at the time that David had been in the same boat as I was. Dragging his severely injured and young body, he set out on the road to escape from the cage again and again, but could not find the end. However, he and I are completely different. It doesn't matter if I can't escape, my loved one will come to pick me up and put a warm coat on me. But the 12-year-old David couldn't escape. All that was left for him was cold abuse and scolding, and the next despair, over and over again. The rest of the story is simple. After learning of his mother's death, David grew up at an astonishing rate. He was ruthless and decisive, and acted vigorously, and quickly established a foothold in the Robert family. Finally, on his father's birthday, he walked into the master bedroom of Robert's family carrying a gun. When my father and his wife saw the gun, they were so frightened that they paralyzed and ran to knock on the door screaming. But the door had been locked. David walked towards them step by step, his smile as warm as jade. "Didn't you treat my mother like this before? Why are you scared now that it's your turn?" From then on, the Robert family changed its name to the David family. After the story was told, we were all silent for a while. After a while, the system sighed and said, "I just went through the plot roughly before. I watched this experience carefully today and found that this villain seemed to be quite miserable. It is not easy to make such a knowledgeable system express such emotion. So, I was even more confused, so why is David the villain? He had a miserable childhood and avenged his mother. This is a beautiful, strong, and tragic setting. He doesn't look like a villain, right?" The system thought for a moment, Probably because of what happened later. David he developed his own power in the most chaotic area of City A. On the surface, it seems ambitious, but in reality, it is just to help ordinary people who have a hard time over there. In order to reduce the number of idle and desperate people who would come to cause trouble, he publicized his reputation for being fierce and brutal, and scared away a lot of people with bad intentions. Then he was also identified as a villain by the instrument detection. Me, In other words, David never did anything bad, but he was treated as a villain just because he acted fierce. This person is really so miserable both in and outside the book. But for some reason, I subconsciously felt that David wouldn't care about these things. For him, as long as he can protect the things he wants to protect, it doesn't matter how others misunderstand him. After all, he is such a determined and strong person. Baby. Just then, a familiar voice suddenly sounded from behind. I looked back. David was wearing a wide and tall windbreaker, standing under the light, like a cool and indifferent cedar. But after looking at me, a gentle smile appeared on the corner of his lips. In an instant, the ice and snow melted. My heart started pounding, but I tried to keep my tone calm. Why are you here? Didn't you ask the bodyguard to carry my things for me? David walked steadily to my side, taking my bag with one hand and raising an eyebrow slightly. Can't I come and carry your things for you? Get in the car. I followed David into the passenger seat. Then before he drove away, she held his hand. David was stunned. What's wrong? I shook my head. Nothing, my eyes just hurt a little bit. It seems like something got stuck in them. Can you blow on them for me? Hearing this, David really leaned over and moved closer to me. Those deep eyes were extremely clear in the moonlight, glowing with a soft light. It's so beautiful that you want to indulge in it. He frowned and whispered, your eyes are indeed red. Don't move. Let me blow on them for you. But I didn't listen to him. When he got close to me, I raised my chin and leaned forward gently. David was caught off guard by my sneak attack and was stunned for a moment. I couldn't help but laugh and said, how can you be so gullible? I said that because I wanted to kiss you. But the next moment, David was not to be outdone and kissed her back. Suddenly, the only thing left in the world was each other's scent. This kiss was not as passionate as usual. Both of them were kissing each other seriously, sticky and quiet. It is really too peaceful and beautiful. I feel that if I die right now, I would probably be happy. In between kisses, David chuckled and said, actually, I lied to you, too. I came to see you not to carry things, but because I missed you very much. I don't know what love is. When I was 7 years old, my mother told me that she loved me, but then she turned around and left. When I was 8 years old, my father told me that he loved me, but then he married someone else and had children. When I was 14, I was alone in school, and a little boy came up to me with a red face and he said, I like you, please be with me. But after I rejected him expressionlessly, he ran away crying, shouting, you are an emotionless monster. You deserve to be isolated. When I grew up a little more, I learned the ways of the world and how to read people's expressions. Everyone praises me for being cheerful and considerate, but I am the only one who knows that there is a disconnect between my appearance and my inner self. No matter how enthusiastic you appear, your heart will always be stagnant. Until the system found me and said that my personality was very suitable for completing the task. By chance, I met David. From then on, this stagnant water began to be stirred. David was obviously more unfortunate than me since childhood, but like his mother, he still has the ability to love. There are so many people coming and going in my life, but only he tells me with his actions that love exists in this world. It has no reason and lasts until death. When he got home, David went to take a shower. I sat on the bed and thought for a long time, and finally tapped the system. System, I want to say something. What's wrong? I slowly raised my head, my eyes determined. I want to give up my original mission of traveling through the book. After all, David was genuinely sincere to me, and I approached him because of a mission. I always feel it's unfair to him. The system was shocked. Host, are you serious? It stammered, if you give up this mission, the 100 million points reward will be gone. Me, do I look short of money now? Just kidding. The system said angrily, you are my host. You should know better than me what the price of giving up the mission is. I do know. Giving up the mission means going against the destined plot, and the price is that you can never go back to the original world and can only be trapped here. It would definitely be difficult for ordinary people to accept. But I'm different. There's nothing good about going back. I have no relatives or friends there, nor do I have anything special to miss. At this point, I raised my head and chuckled, but here, there is my love. So it doesn't matter if you don't get the system rewards. Because my greatest reward has already appeared beside me. Before I could finish my words, I suddenly froze. A smooth arm tightly held my waist. The man's slightly hoarse voice came from behind, very close. Baby, thank you. My hands clenched instantly. My mind went blank with nervousness. You know everything? David buried his head in the crook of my neck and said in a muffled voice, I knew it a long time ago. I knew it the day I heard that broken system instigated you to escape. It's so early. I was shocked. Fortunately, I was able to concentrate and make up some lie about escaping from a secret room, and I thought I had fooled the other party. But I didn't expect that he had known it for a long time, but just didn't want to reveal it. I turned around and looked at him in confusion. You knew I had been lying to you, why didn't you say it? Why do you say that? David asked back. You enjoy it, and I enjoy it too. Why do we need to expose something that is consensual? Me. My voice gradually dropped, and I felt guilty, but I have been deceiving you, which is very bad. The next moment, I felt a warm touch on my lips. It turned out that David stretched out his slender fingers and gently pressed them against my lips, interrupting me. You're not evil at all. After traveling through time for so long, even though he has wealth and status, he has never harmed anyone, and he is still willing to stay with a villain like me. He removed his fingers and kissed them in the dim light. The voice was gentle and pious. You are a very good person. My love. My heartbeat suddenly lost control because of these two sentences. I couldn't help but put my arms around David's neck and kissed him back actively and awkwardly. I whispered, but I bullied you many times, and I still feel a little guilty. What should I do? The next moment, David had his arm around my waist, supporting me. The ambiguous vapor hit me in the face, making my cheeks hot and making his voice extremely hoarse. Since you've bullied me so many times, just let me bully you back once. Don't be afraid, baby, it's just for one night. Winter is here in the blink of an eye. It's David's birthday too. I walked slowly with David, reminding him repeatedly along the way, don't open your eyes, we will be there soon. If you open your eyes, there will be no surprises. David smiled helplessly and said, this is the 10th time you've said that. I really didn't open my eyes, baby. This villain, who was feared by the outside world, now lowered his head obediently and let me lead him step by step. I was so moved that I couldn't help but laugh and said, you are so obedient, aren't you afraid that I will take the opportunity to sell you out? You are so heartless, why did you sell me out? It's not that I have to sell it, but if you beg me, I won't sell it. Good, David's voice was tinged with a gentle smile. I beg you, baby, don't abandon me, don't leave me, okay? Such a David is irresistible. I immediately covered my chest and swore, I will never sell you out even if I am short of money. I was just joking. We're here, open your eyes. David smiled slightly and opened his eyes. However, the moment he saw the surrounding scene, he just stood there in a daze. Bright hues all around. The orange-tinted light gently wraps around the furniture, exuding a familiar atmosphere everywhere. This turned out to be the home he and his mother once lived in. On his 12th birthday, earth-shaking changes took place here. When he came back again, it had become a mess and lifeless. Along with it came the news of his mother's death. From then on, this place became a nightmare that David never wanted to set foot in again. But now, he seemed to be back in his childhood again. Those shadows of fear also began to be replaced by warm light little by little. I stood aside and saw that David didn't move for a long time, and I began to feel a little uneasy. I had planned this birthday gift a long time ago. After all, this house is filled with David's best childhood memories, and it's a pity to just leave it abandoned. So, I asked the system to provide the original photo of the house, and then I cleaned up the cobwebs and dust bit by bit, and slowly found someone to repair the old furniture, trying my best to restore its original appearance. But some traces of time cannot be removed after all, and cannot be restored 100%. So, I added some of my favorite elements in these places. I love so much. David's voice brought me back to reality. He looked back at me, and without saying anything, he stretched out his arms and hugged me tightly. I was a little breathless from being hugged, so I could only pat his shoulder and said, you haven't answered me yet, how about this gift? David then relaxed a little. Those deep pupils were now dyed a beautiful warm color by the light. I love so much. He was clearly talking about the house, but his eyes kept staying on my face. The next moment, David seemed to be unable to restrain himself any longer and placed a soft kiss on my lips. A tear ran down my neck. Thank you, baby. Once, his mother stood here and said to him with a smile, "David, welcome home. And now, the person I love is standing here, smiling brightly and saying, 'David, welcome home.'" So, he finally had a home again.